we make you, the grandparent or the storyteller, the way we refer to them, the stars in the children's content.
Welcome to our series entitled The I Am Podcast, a podcast about innovation, business, and most importantly, people. In this series, we'll be talking to founders, executives, and various experts about their vision, challenges, best practices, and lessons learned throughout their journey. Let's get started. Welcome to another exciting episode of I Am Podcast for Startups, where we feature startups, founders, and entrepreneurs, and they share about their journey and their latest innovation. So today, I have the pleasure of speaking with a true innovator who is revolutionizing education. They're leveraging AR to bring families closer together. Please join me in welcoming the CEO and co-founder of Zoog. Welcome, Yoav Oren.
Hey, Mariah, great to be here, and thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. We are so excited how you're revolutionizing and making an impact to how you bring families closer together. Okay, but this isn't the normal way to start, but how would you pitch just so people who come in the show and listen before, the first minute, how do you pitch Zoog?
How do I pitch Zoog? Okay, that's an easy one. So Zoog, as you said, is revolutionizing the way families connect. But what we've done is we invented a new language for connections. Because we're trying to connect two very different generations. You have children or young children on one hand, and you have adults or even grandparents on the other hand. How do you find that common ground? And that's what Zoog created. And the way we do this is we provide a platform for content-based communication. So we kind of merge content and communication together because children require a super engaging, very interactive, in essence, they need to be entertained in order to relate and in order to be engaged on calls. And on the flip side, grandparents need a product or an experience that is super intuitive and easy to use and approachable. And that's what Zoog provides. So if you haven't seen Zoog, what's special about Zoog is that we make you, the grandparent or the storyteller, the way we refer to them, the stars in the children's content. So if you open up our app, you'll see a library of content. And the content today includes anywhere from books and short stories to songs in karaoke style to a category of dad jokes and greeting cards and even memories. And what we do is once you select what you want to record, we actually put you inside that story. And all you need to do is record. And as you record, we automatically change the backgrounds, animations, augmented reality, and filters and audio effects. So it becomes this immersive experience, an interactive experience that changes throughout the entire recording, right? So every page is completely different. There's different animations, different backgrounds. And once you're done, you can share this as a text message, WhatsApp, email, any way you're used to sharing. And the children on the other side can open your recording on any device at any time. They then have the opportunity to kind of respond with video messages, respond with emojis. They can select their next experiences. And one of the beauties of this experience is that everything you create on Zoog is also saved forever in your family album, your memory album, right? So children have the opportunity to view these recordings not only time and again, but for years to come. It becomes something that is saved forever.
Wow. We are so excited to see how it works, but it'll be later. Okay. Thank you for that pitch. And okay, how did it first come about? I mean, take us to the very first conversation with your co-founder. Take it to that table.
So this is easy because my co-founder and I were both parents to young children. And it was around COVID that we, right before COVID, we got together. We were working on a completely different idea. And when COVID hit and we were suddenly isolated from our families, we tried to look for creative ways to get our kids to engage on calls with their grandparents or actually with any remote family member. So anyone that didn't live in the same household. And we quickly learned while trying to get our kids to interact with our parents on, FaceTime or Zoom or any other live interaction that was available, that we learned that, video communication with kids was just dreadful. Our kids couldn't hold a 30-second conversation. They weren't interested in small talk. And it created a frustrating situation for everyone who tried to get involved in these calls, right? My kids were frustrated because I kept on, shoving a phone in their face and expecting them to speak. Well, in fact, they wanted to do something completely different with that phone. My parents, of course, were frustrated because they wanted to see their grandkids. They wanted to have, some kind of meaningful interaction with them. And of course, we were frustrated as parents because I literally felt like I needed to bribe my kids every time I wanted them to spend a few minutes on the phone with their, family members. And on the flip side, what was interesting about COVID and the beginning of the pandemic was that you had this point of time where suddenly video communication became mainstream. So you had the sudden mass adaptation towards video everywhere in the world. Businesses adapted to conduct business and even large enterprise deals over Zoom, and venture capitalists adapted and started investing in entrepreneurs without actually physically meeting them, which was unheard of. We raised money without actually meeting some of our investors in person, and educational systems and even young grandparents adapted. So you had this point of time where you have this mass adaptation, but there was this gap because no one was really solving cross-generational communication in a meaningful way. And you were relying on generic tools that weren't built for this purpose at all. And this is where we decided, okay, this is a huge opportunity. Of course, if you look at the US market only, which is our target market, where you have 70 million grandparents, the vast majority of whom get to see their grandkids about twice a year. So even without COVID, by default, the way that they're communicating is through phone and video. So we knew the problem is here and it's here to stay. It's going to last even after we figure out, find a cure for COVID. And we decided that it's a huge problem to tackle, and we decided to build really the first meaningful cross-generational communication product out there. And this is where really the idea of merging that content and communication together, and visual communication, came about.
Wow. You said COVID hit, and yes, you want your kids to interact with their grandparents, and right now you cannot really push your kids to talk to them. I can relate to that. They get easily bored. And you said you got the right timing. The mass adaptation, right? Everyone's meeting on Zoom and using their phones. Okay, this is a cross generational solution to that, right? So, but do you have like challenges with that as well? Like you're targeting the older adults. So, can you speak to us about that? Like, the segment that you were able to choose.
Challenges. I have no idea what you're talking about. No, I'm just kidding. Naturally, there is a lot of challenges on multiple levels. But I'll say that one of the first things that came about when we chose to focus on this target audience, meaning the grandparents really as our initial target audience and our main target audience, is we took a look at this sector of young grandparents, or the way they're referred to in some cases as elders, older adults, baby boomers, right? It's anywhere, that segment that we're targeting is anywhere between, 50 to 75. That's kind of our sweet spot and what we're targeting today. And it is a super interesting segment, right? If you look at it from a business perspective, it's a segment that has, in the US alone, holds about 70% of all disposable income is within the segment. It's a segment that has incredibly strong brand loyalty, right? As opposed to younger generations who skip between brands. This segment, when it likes something, it sticks with it for a long period of time. It has time more than any other segment, right? So it has extra time on their hands. As I said, disposable income. And I think one of the most important things that I saw was that this segment, their digital experience, how they experience digital devices, is, in the end of the day, pretty similar to my experience, right? So if you think about like our parents, they all have smartphones. They all either have worked in the past with a computer or working today with a computer. They purchase online, right? But this segment doesn't get almost any love from developers in the consumer space. No one. right? Because everyone's developing for Gen Z, Gen Y. And a lot of the time, the segment kind of adapts to technologies. So you see the segment becoming the largest growing segment on Facebook because they adapted to Facebook, and now everyone's going to Facebook, and the original users of Facebook are moving on to other platforms, right? Instagram, TikTok, and so forth, and Snap. And we figured that let's actually invest in this segment, right? As I said, they have the means, they have the time, they have the pain, right? They want to have closer relationships with their families. Let's invest in them. When we looked at the segment beyond that, we saw that grandparents alone in the US, despite the fact that they see their grandkids about twice a year, spend vast amount of money on gifts for their grandkids.
Yes.
Actually, over $179 billion a year is spent in the US alone between grandparents and grandkids. And we figured this is a large enough market to tackle, problem to solve. And of course, it directly relates to us and to our families. So it kind of marked all the dots for us,
Mm.
checked all the boxes.
Yes, yes. They have time, so much time. And you said brand loyalty. So would love to know how many users from before, from how you when you started and until now later, and also the budget. I mean, they really buy your product.
They really buy our product, yeah. Yeah, so metric wise, today we have about 20,000 monthly active users. To date, over 100,000 people have experienced Zoog. And one of the beauties of this is that Zoog has really become almost a daily routine. So today, the average Zoog member records and shares content 5 times a week on
Almost
Zoog.
every day.
Almost every day, almost every day, people are coming back. It's really it's hard to kind of explain this without actually seeing the product because it's actually quite beautiful. But every content is a completely different experience, and you are a completely different character. So every time you come back to the app, you'll find content that is completely different. So no experience is like the other, which makes it very special and keeps it fresh for the grandparents, but also fresh for the grandkids. Um, Today we're at about $100,000 ARR and growing over 20% month over month in terms of subscribers, about 30% growth in revenues month over month.
We are so excited to see the app, the dad jokes, and everything that you have there on Zook.
Okay, amazing.
Yes,
Yeah,
I can see Baby
okay.
Shark.
We are in business, finally. Amazing. Okay. So, as I said, you are now in the create page of Zoog. And Zoog, as I said, there are a lot of different experiences here. And every experience is completely different. So there's nothing that's similar here. And as you'll see here, as I hover over any one of these stories, I get to become something completely different. So, for instance, a 4th of July greeting card that we did, right? This is a story of Catch That Cat, right? And you see my tail on the back. Every story here is completely different.
Cute.
There's nothing that really is similar. So I can jump into any one of these stories and say, I want to do Puss in Boots over here. And all I need to do is, select what I want. And I'll start recording here. And as I progress in the story, you'll see that automatically we'll change the backgrounds based on the text, right? We'll change, in some cases, my character. I'll progress here. So now I've become Puss in Boots, right? And every story, as I said, is different. So there's some stories where they're a little more heavy on the animations and 3D effects and AR masks and so forth, and some that are a little lighter. But you'll see that it becomes super easy to record, very interactive. All these things happen. You can't hear this, but there's audio effects that happen here in the background as well. And all I need to do is record. Once I'm actually done recording a chapter, I'll get to see a preview what I just recorded. This is me, what I just did a second ago. And I can either move on to the next chapter or I can share this right away. And when I share, we allow you to automatically share to any, you predefine your family. So you can share directly to a kid in your life. You can send this via text message, WhatsApp, Messenger, any way you want. You can actually download the video to your camera roll, you can share it directly on social media. So you can share it directly as an Instagram story, Facebook, TikTok, whatever you want. The children,
Wow.
as I said, on the other side, can open this up on any device, anytime. They don't actually have to download the app. And one of the nice things about this is, as I said, everything you record is also stored forever in your family album. Right? So I can take a view at all my old recordings that either I shared
Oh,
or were
wow.
shared with me. Yeah,
Interesting. So like you can keep it for how many years? Like it it changes all the time. Like if you read a book today and you want to read it a year after today, it's going to be a new experience.
it's going to be anytime you create a record, of course, you can record for a different kid. You're creating these new experiences, right? But then also, whatever you record is saved forever. And so as long as you have, Zoog, you'll be able to will save your videos forever. So it becomes a memory archive for family as well.
Right, right. And okay, do you have a dad joke there just so we can greet all the fathers? Ah, the poorest king in history.
I'm just having fun here. I'm just don't mind
Right.
me, right?
Yeah, it's a very good way really to immerse or just to entertain yourself or a kid. I mean, you
Very
yourself.
much. It's fun to create, as I said. I have no idea what to expect. Every page, as I said, is completely different, right? Different animations, different backgrounds, different effects. But yes, definitely. And as I said, yes, as you said, we have a whole dad joke category, right? So if I go to jokes over here, there's different
Yes.
ages, by the way, too, for preschoolers, school age, toddlers. Over here,
Yeah, so if
we
you're a
can have
dad and you're running out of jokes, you can also check out Zoog.
definitely like a penguin's house, for instance. So, Mariah, do you know how does a penguin build a house?
How?
He glues it together.
It glues it together. That's fun. It glues it
Right?
together.
So I can share this with anyone right now, or I can actually put this on my social media as well. Yeah, there's a bunch of other things here.
Yes.
Endless jokes.
Jokes and greeting cards, and you can read a book, right? So
You can
there's a.
also tell memory, right? So this is a whole category that we did. Right now, what we're doing is we're connecting this to generative AI, where the idea is for you to come and share a memory about your childhood or about your upbringing, and we will automatically generate backgrounds and different AR masks to couple your memory, right? So we want to be able to grandparents to tell their own stories, not just stories that we've created for them.
Oh,
But this is
interesting.
kind of the first version of this, where it's asking me to share a memory from a camping trip that was meaningful to me, right? So telling me well,
Oh,
how
it gives
making
you clues.
suggestions. Like, yeah, it gives me clues. When I was a kid and when I was your age, what would I want to say to you? And I start recording again. It's so much interesting for a kid to see a memory, right, about a camping trip where there's actually animations and there's an AR mask. It's much more interactive than me just telling him a story. Right? And this is why this is special.
Mm.
This is me creating a story about a camping trip
Like how long is
and
that
so forth.
recording? If you wanna like tell your own story, does it have a limit or?
It's a good question. So we typically limit the each chapter to about anywhere between 2 to 3 minutes because we
Mm,
felt that that was the ideal length, both for people recording the story, right? Then wanting to hold their phone or hold their iPad up and record a
not too
story,
long. Yeah.
but it's also not too long for the children, right? We want to keep them captivated, we want to keep them engaged.
Yeah. Okay. So with a lot of things going right for Zoog, right? Like you have 200,000 users and it's growing every day. 5 times a week, people are recording. What is the road ahead?
what we're doing right now, we are actually incorporating generative AI tools into the Zoog process. So we started off actually enriching our creative process with generative AI. And what that has enabled us to do is actually to create Zoom experience almost on a daily basis. Starting for like before incorporating generative AI tools, we're releasing content on a weekly basis, once a week. Now we're almost able to create content from scratch almost on a daily basis, which is a massive improvement for us. And of course, the more content we release, the more diverse a library we can create, the more we can ensure that our users, every time they come into the app, they'll see different experiences that weren't there previously, which is really important. Phase using generative AI is actually giving this right to our audience and give them the tools to create their own experiences, their own content. And that content could be anywhere from memories, telling memories, where we're automatically generating backgrounds and AR masks and so forth, to creating jokes and greeting cards, right? They're very personalized, but also to creating stories. So I think if you could tell a story about a kid in your life and you can incorporate their name and their photo, and will automatically generate text for that story, and it will generate the backgrounds as well and other visual overlays. So it becomes a much more personal experience on one hand, but it also solves a second problem for us, which is actually creating more content. So if you have a tool like this, you can create infinite amount of content. Every time you come to the app, you'll be able to create a completely different experience. The next phase for Zoog is also kind of expanding into that relationship and offering other ways to interact. So not just recording and sharing experiences, but also we want to expand and offer live communication experiences, chat capabilities within the app. We're also exploring games, adding games, so different types of interactions. And I would say the more on the more immediate side, we're also connecting Zoog to gifting as well. The idea is we want to give grandparents the ability, or any remote family member, if they're having this relationship with their kids and we're solving that connectivity issue, to also be able to very easily purchase gifts for them and give them rewards within the app. And I would say, like, further down our roadmap, we're definitely going to put our emphasis also on the educational side and see how we can create possibly a different product, possibly Zoom the way it is today, and some variation, but really to provide Zoom directly for children and help them really improve their reading capabilities through this interactive reading experience.
Interesting. And yes, let's mention that grandparents are very, I mean, maybe the most generous person on earth. They love giving their grandkids gifts.
They
Okay.
do.
Yeah, so very
They
interesting,
do.
and we'll look forward to that. Okay, as we wrap this up, um, you're 3 years and 3 years and 7 months, right, Zug? So tell
A
us
little
about.
less than that. No, we've been in the air. We actually launched Zoom about a year and a half ago. We
Mm,
officially started, in 2020, but we launched Zoom the way you see it today only at about February 22. Yeah,
Feb
so a year and a half ago.
22. Ah, okay.
Yeah, what happened
Interesting.
was we actually we partnered with Snap. So Zoom became one of the first companies in the world to receive access to Snap's camera technology. We were part of a small cohort of companies, including, by the way, Disney and Bumble and Viber and Zoog. It was a very special thing for us, and it enabled us to create, top-notch AR experiences. We really had to build the app from scratch for this integration. So Zoog was around before that in a different way, but the way the app is today, pretty much, is started really in February 22.
Ah, okay. Young. And what is something that you can leave our audience, or something that is unique about your journey? Yeah, that's something unique. It's just a year plus old, and you had a lot of. I mean, before you got to Zoog, you were into a lot of companies, right? So What is unique about your journey, and what special advice or important advice can you share with our listeners as an entrepreneur?
So I think first of all, it's important to distinguish, right? Distinguish. We started the company as I said, during beginning of the lockdowns in 2020. We had several launches, which is, I guess it happens with startups. You have several launches. Typically there's one grand launch. There are several launches along the journey, and several mini pivots, I would say, within our vision for Zoog. And the product, the way it appears today, has been around for a year and a half, but we started Zoog, as you said, about 3 years ago, officially incorporating about 3 years ago. Um, a lot of advice. I think like the two major things that I would say, one is, I guess, on a more general perspective, and one is a more timely perspective. On a general perspective is that it's really important, that you know, develop something. If you are an entrepreneur, that really means something to you. In the end of the day, you're going to put your heart and soul into what you're doing, and you want to be, you know, completely passionate about it and believe in it, and really in all your wits, because you will have a lot of rejections along the way, a lot of question marks. People are going to question what you do, why you do it, whether or not it's a good opportunity, not a good opportunity. And you have to have very, very strong self-conviction and conviction about the problem, and to realize that this is a marathon, and not to give up. But you also need to have that bamboo-like quality where you're also listening to smart people around you, taking in feedback and seeing how you can apply that, and know when to shift gears and to create many pivots in the product, in your roadmap, and in your vision. So really, it's that combination of being, on one hand, firm, on the other hand, flexible enough to make changes along the way. Um, from a timely, advice perspective, we are in a complicated economic, I would say, period right now in the venture world, in the startup world. It has become increasingly hard to raise capital in the last year, and I don't see an end to it anytime soon. It's one of these frustrating situations where you think you're doing really, really well, but on the other hand, it's very hard to raise capital. I think that Zoog was lucky that we kind of saw this happen early on, and we decided to start monetizing early on. And my advice for entrepreneurs, if they're listening to this right now in July 2023, is to figure out your business model as soon as possible. It's no longer about necessarily the amount of users, the engagement, retention, all important stuff. But at the end of the day, venture capitalists, if you are in that world of raising capital from VCs or other accredited investors, you need to figure out your business model. And I would highly recommend to start monetizing as soon as possible in order for you to potentially reach a break-even / profitability, or pathway, a clear pathway towards profitability in the foreseeable future. Because I would recommend not to need to rely on venture capital, or at least have the option. So a little more, flexibility in terms of running your business in the long run, because it is complicated at times. Those are going to be my two general and timely recommendations for any entrepreneur who might be tuning into this podcast.
Thank you, Yoav. And to all those listening to the podcast, and you want to get this immersive, entertaining app, how can they connect with you? How can they get this app?
So first of all, check out Zoog on the App Store, available to download. And as I promised Mariah here, I said that everyone who comes through the podcast, listen to the podcast, we're happy to offer a 50% discount on the Zoog Plus membership, which gives you access to our entire library of content, and of course, videos that are saved forever, and many other perks. So, definitely highly recommend to Joe check out Zoog on the App Store. You can also check out our website at getzoog.com. And if you have any direct questions, you can feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or on my email, which is yoav@getzoog.com.
All right. So, what are you waiting for, mommy sharks and daddy sharks, granny sharks? Get Zoog now. Thank you very much, Yoav Oren. And all the best to Zoog.
Thank you so much, Mariah. Again, thanks for having me, and all the best to you as well.
This podcast is powered by imobs.io. Optimize your cloud infrastructure and CI/CD process with imobs.io dedicated DevOps team. Check out www.imobs.io and get a DevOps team now. Make sure to check out www.imobs.io if you want to know more about us. Subscribe to our podcast so you can get notified every time we post a new video. Thank you, and you have a great day.